And once we actually had it finally built and tested, it wasn't fast enough to do what we wanted it to do. And this thing just drug on and on and on and on. They were doing this for years. To me, that just blew my mind that this was in any way acceptable for a modern, like, big company.
Yeah.
I was completely shocked.
Most people think manufacturing's dirty, boring, or dying. They're dead wrong. This is Manufacturing Runs the World. We're here to fix the misconceptions, teaching the next generation how modern manufacturing really works and why it matters more than ever.
So how's it going?
Pretty good. How about you?
Good. Very good. Thanks for jumping on.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, it seemed interesting. Seems like something I'd willing to take a stab at.
Well, Kyle, why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So I'm a manufacturing engineer right around 4 years into my career. My first job out of college was the same place that I interned at when I was still in college. It was a place called Universal Electronics. They make mostly consumer electronics, mostly remote controls, smart thermostats, smart home equipment, sensors, those kinds of things. So I was at Universal Electronics 2.5, 3 years or so. And then about a year and a half ago, I started at Universal Laser Systems. Most of what my title entails is improving our production operations and more focus on the production side of things, more so than design. We're a pretty small company, I think less than 80 people, and that's like everybody from CEO all the way to janitorial staff, everybody. Yeah. But the sort of design work that I'll do is more so focused on production tooling and fixturing and things like that. So while the benches and stuff is most the same, we try to keep the flow the same, it can be a little bit different. So we'll have those kind of discussions and reviews about how exactly you want to set up a certain area. This feels like there's a lot more kind of like dirt to move, if you will. Now there's a lot of updates to make. So we're always looking at things, always improving things.
I think it's fascinating just to hear all the different stories of manufacturings and the line setups, and you really become an expert in kind of your particular field. And then it's different anywhere you go, and there's different little pieces of automation that get worked into every process.
Yes, definitely. And when you're talking about automation, a lot of people think of like the big robots and everything like that. And even it can be something as simple as a different tool, conservatively 10 times as long, and wears you out real bad. But doing it with the pneumatic tool, it takes minutes as opposed to hours.
Yeah.
And something simple like that is what people may not immediately think of when they think of automation. There we have a large automated welding machine because there's a lot of welds that get put on the caps of the lasers to seal them up, to seal the gas mix. So it's a big robot welder like the ones you see on car manufacturing lines, but there's a surprising amount of hand and manual processes throughout the whole thing. And if we need like little plastic gaskets or we need some kind of Delrin shim or something like that for some part, we have a laser system out on our production floor that people can go up and use with pre-programmed jobs. So you can just pop it in, tell it the thickness, and it'll go, and it'll work well pretty much the first time. And after I got to my new job at Universal Laser Systems, within a couple weeks, I had designed, prototyped, built, and completed a fixture cutting tool that was put into production. And that was really cool because previously there, I hadn't really had that experience of like starting from almost zero and like making something physical that then is put into production immediately. Yeah, we made a bunch of little tweaks with that thing because basically what it was is we have these rotary fixtures that are used for laser marking kind of round or cylindrical parts. And to hold the things in place, there's basically these two machined cones, an external and internal cone, but they have rubber bumpers on them to kind of hold the thing in place. And previously, these were just getting measured and cut by hand with a razor blade.
Oof.
And the finish on the cut was all wonky. The shape was always out of whack. So I designed and built this die cutter that, using steel rule die, 3D printed parts, springs, foam, was able to just create a consistent length that also had kind of chamfered edges. It looked a lot more professional. The key aspect of it is then documenting all of this, like listing your BOM, uploading the 3D print files, placing them on a stored drive for posterity. So if this thing ever breaks in the future, everything you need to reproduce it is right there and clear.
And you mentioned you're doing 3D printing there kind of as part of the process. Do you use a 3D printer to kind of help with everyday things?
We make a lot of our production fixtures with 3D printing. We'll use it for some prototyping and stuff too, but we use it a lot for just day-to-day things. Yeah, it's really cool to have like a need design and then have it out on the floor within a day rather than mocking up something in CAD, printing out a drawing, dimensioning the drawing, sending that drawing over the machine shop, wait however many weeks until it comes back and then implement it. And then if you find out that it doesn't work because some slight feature is off, then you're right back to the beginning. And that's a real pain in the neck.
What's the coolest thing that you've experienced in your career so far?
I guess there's two things, and they're both a little bit different. One is a project I worked on at my last job where previously what they were doing, how they were tracking their production numbers this is a remarkable thing. This was ever happening. And they were doing this for years. Pretty much all the line leaders would write down every hour what they produced on a whiteboard. Someone would go around to all those whiteboards, write down what it was for each cell, hand that to a person who would then data entry it into Excel. And to me, that just blew my mind that this was in any way acceptable for a modern, like, big company.
Yeah.
I was completely shocked. So we had a guy there who did his own little software stuff on the side. He was like teaching himself programming. And I knew a little bit about programming myself. So I kind of worked with him and worked with all the people in the different areas to create a digital system to do that, where all the line leaders then had an iPad and they would just type in what they produced every hour, and it would update all this to a live dashboard that everybody could see. And it was a really big improvement. I have used AI a little bit when I've written up some programs at work recently, which has helped a little bit. Yeah, especially as I'm a little bit rustier with my programming. I'm like, I've done this before, but I can't quite remember how to do this. Like, talk to AI, spit out something close to what I want, and then I can work off of that.
I heard of an engineer that was also using AI to look at his 3D STL files and look for weight reduction opportunities and then spit back.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. So I always wonder if people are kind of working that stuff into everyday life, because it seems like it's just creeping its way into every single industry.
Oh, yeah, definitely. There's tons of use cases, opportunities for it. I think I remember what might be considered a very early form of that, what people might call AI now. Maybe it was called something different back then, years ago.
And you even talked about programming and using AI to help you program. It's just people have that basic knowledge of programming usually these days.
Yeah. And once we actually had it finally built and tested, it wasn't fast enough to do what we wanted it to do. And this thing just drug on and on and on and on. And honestly, the biggest thing that it taught me was really the importance of just staying on top of projects like this before they really kind of spiral out of control. Because I think the project must have, from when we started and made contact with the vendor to when we just like passed off and canceled it, it was around 16 months or something like that. At least that's what it felt like.
Yeah.
And that was really bad. So the major things is staying on top of things like that, like constant communication with the vendors. And also a key thing is when you have virtual meetings and especially when you're discussing technical requirements and what you want and what they can do, if you have this over a virtual meeting, it can be very, very important and useful to, after that meeting, send an email saying, this is what we discussed. This is what we understand the specifications to be. These are the action items for us. These are the action items that we understand that we're getting from you. And that level of communication can be really, really important and prevent months of wasted time.
I feel like I learned something new on each one of these. And I've been working with manufacturers on kind of the custom programming or digital marketing side for maybe 20 years. And I've probably learned more in the past 7 months of podcasting and manufacturing than I have in the previous 15 to 20. You know, like before I didn't really know what a fixture was in the manufacturing process, right? And then just doing these meetings, okay, I know it's a part that has to kind of hold another part in a certain way to help with the manufacturing process or make it easier. I wouldn't know that if I was still just doing marketing stuff. So
no, great. Yeah, it's amazing what you can learn even from a short time talking to people that are passionate about what they do.
Yeah, totally. And I do feel like it's a story that needs to be told. I think people's perception of what the modern manufacturer does, I think it's obscured. Think of it as this kind of grimy, people on an assembly line floor. And I think US manufacturing, I think it's more technical. It's more people like you that are doing a tech stack of 20 different things to improve a process.
Yep.
It's not just like moving thousands of parts by hand every day.
Yep.
So yeah, I think your story is important, and I think more people need to know it.
Excellent. Well, I really appreciate it. I think it'll be really interesting. And I'm glad you're getting the message out there about manufacturing, especially US manufacturing.
Yeah. Thanks for your time, Kyle. We'll be in touch.
Yep, will do. Thank you very much. Have a good day.